It's the 90th minute in Qatar, and you are watching a man fall to his knees in the desert light. The whole world is screaming. Lionel Messi has just won the World Cup, and for one perfect second, every Argentine alive feels like a child again. But the story you think you're watching isn't the one that really happened. Because the trophy Messi lifted that night wasn't the end of a long wait. It was the end of a curse. A 36-year silence that swallowed an entire generation of players who were supposed to be the ones to break it. And to understand why that night meant so much, you have to go back to the last time Argentina felt this way. You have to go back to a different number 10, in a different stadium in a different decade. You have to go back to Diego. In 1986, in Mexico City, Diego Maradona did something that no footballer has done so completely before or since. He didn't just win a World Cup. He carried ones. The quarterfinal against England gave the world both of his faces in the space of 4 minutes. First, the hand of God, a goal he punched in with his fist and the referee somehow allowed. Then the goal of the century, where he beat half the English team across 60 yards as if they were standing in wet concrete. Argentina won that tournament. Maradona was a god. And then the silence began. Here is the part nobody tells you. After Maradona lifted that trophy, Argentina did not win another World Cup for 36 years. Think about that. A country that breathes football, that produces world-class players the way other nations produce rain, went more than 3 decades without a single world title. How does that happen? The easy answer is that they were unlucky. But the easy answer is almost never the true one. The real story starts in 1990, just 4 years after the glory. Argentina reached the final again, in Italy, and lost to West Germany on a late penalty in a match so bitter that Maradona wept openly on the pitch. That tear was the first crack. Because what followed was not a slow decline. It was a country trapped by its own greatest gift. Argentina had Maradona. And after Maradona, the entire nation spent 30 years searching for the next one. You have probably heard the phrase, the new Maradona. What you may not know is how many players were crushed by it. Pablo Aimar, Juan Ramon Riquelme, Andrés D'Alessandro. Each one labeled the air before he was old enough to drive. Each one measured not against his opponents, but against a ghost. Imagine being 19 years old and told you must become the greatest player who ever lived, or you have failed. That weight didn't make players better. It broke them. And then came the boy from Rosario. When Lionel Messi first pulled on the Argentina shirt, the country did not embrace him. This is the detail that gets lost in the celebration of 2022. For years, Argentines were suspicious of Messi. He had grown up in Spain. He played his best football for Barcelona in another country's colors, speaking with a softer accent. They called him cold. They said he didn't sing the anthem loudly enough. They said he was a Catalan, not an Argentine. Does that sound impossible now? It shouldn't, because greatness and acceptance are not the same thing. The losses kept coming. The 2014 final, again against Germany, again decided by a single late goal, with Messi staring at the trophy he could not touch as he walked past it. Then 2 Copa America finals, in 2015 and 2016, both lost on penalties to Chile. After the second one, Messi stood in front of the cameras and announced he was retiring from international football. He was done. The weight that had broken Aimar and Riquelme was breaking him too. Think about how close you came to never seeing Qatar at all. So what changed? This is where the real story lies, and it has almost nothing to do with Messi's talent, which was never in question. What changed was everything around him. For 30 years, Argentina had tried to build teams that served their genius. They put the magician on the field and asked everyone else to get out of his way. It never worked because a single player, no matter how brilliant, cannot win a World Cup alone. Not even Maradona truly did it alone, though the legend says otherwise. He had a tactically disciplined side around him in 1986, built by a coach named Carlos Bilardo who understood something the Romantics ignored. Beauty does not win tournaments. Structure does. Argentina forgot that lesson for 3 decades. And then finally, they remembered it. The man who remembered was Lionel Scaloni. When he took over in 2018, almost nobody thought he was the right choice. He had barely coached at all. He was young, untested, a former player most fans had half forgotten. But Scaloni did the one thing none of his celebrated predecessors had managed. He built a team, not a shrine. He surrounded Messi with runners, with fighters, with young players who had no memory of the curse and therefore no fear of it. Enzo Fernandez, Julian Alvarez, a goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez who treated every penalty shootout like a personal war. For the first time in 36 years, Messi was not asked to be Maradona. He was asked only to be Messi, inside a team that could carry the weight with him. And the difference was everything. In 2021, Argentina finally won the Copa America, beating Brazil in the Maracana in their rival's own cathedral. It was Messi's first major title with his country at 34 years old. He sat on the pitch afterward and was mobbed by teammates who loved him not as a god, but as a man who had suffered alongside them. The curse did not break in Qatar. It cracked open in Rio, a year earlier in a stadium that was supposed to belong to Brazil. By the time the 2022 World Cup arrived, something had shifted in the bones of the team. They lost their opening match to Saudi Arabia, one of the great shocks in the tournament's history, and a younger Argentina would have collapsed under that humiliation. This one didn't. They won every game after it. Because they were no longer carrying a curse. They were chasing a goodbye. And so you arrive back at that final. France, the holders, the most talented squad on earth, with a young Kylian Mbappe who scored a hat-trick in the biggest game of his life. Argentina led by 2. France equalized. Argentina led again in extra time. France equalized again. Mbappe alone seemed capable of tearing the dream apart. It came down to penalties. Of course it did. The same lottery that had ended Argentina's hopes against Chile, twice. The same cruel coin flip that football reserves for its most important nights. But this time there was Emiliano Martinez in goal, dancing on his line, getting inside French heads, saving the shot that mattered. And then it was over. Messi on his knees in the desert. The number 10 finally holding the trophy that the last great number 10 had lifted before he was even born. 36 years closed in a single kick. Here is what the highlight reel will never tell you. That trophy was not won by one genius. It was won by a country that finally stopped waiting for a savior and started building a team. The curse of the new Maradona did not end because Messi became Maradona. It ended because Argentina finally let Messi be someone else. So the next time you see a young player anointed as the next great one, watch carefully. Watch how the weight settles on his shoulders. Because the most dangerous thing you can do to a footballer is ask him to be a ghost. It's the 90th minute in Qatar, and a man is falling to his knees in the desert light. But he isn't ending a wait. He's ending the 36-year-long mistake of asking one person to carry what only a team ever could.